Drilling fluids touch just about everything in the drilling process. We're here to deconstruct the drilling process and drilling fluid concepts to provide a deeper understanding of our industry. In each episode, we'll share information, talk to interesting people, and maybe share a few stories along the way. Welcome to the Flowline, a production of AES Drilling Fluids, brought to you by Matt Offenbacher and Justin Gauthier.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another festive episode of the Flowline. Matt and I here in the studio. It's been kind of chilly and wet. We're in winter mode is basically what it is, man. How was Thanksgiving actually, first and foremost?
It was good. I mean, I was thankful to not have to travel far with small children, not have to cook. Although, I think my mom pulled the, I don't want your dad eating these leftovers, where it was like, oh, we'll give you some stuff to take home. And we get home and we're like, this is an awful lot of apple pie and so, and I was like, I think this was on purpose.
Yeah,
but
didn't want Dad getting going sugar
too crazy.
shock.
Yeah,
or getting well, that's good.
Yeah,
well,
but I mean, tell us about Thanksgiving for your family.
Yeah, it was good. Again, we got the two little ones and then the baby, and so the baby was just along for the ride. But we went to my brother-in-law's, had some food, came back, did some decorating, watched my favorite movie ever, Elf.
Okay.
And it was the first year my kids actually watched it from start to finish, laughed at several of the jokes. Normally during movies, they get up, they're doing this, all of a sudden there's a ball being thrown, they want to play catch, and it's just like there was a movie on. But this time, they were fully engaged, and so it was actually pretty cool. My wife fell asleep, which normally I'm the one falling asleep, but I mean, I can't fall asleep to Elf. It's just too good. But besides that, it was good.
I love the sort of Christmas movie. Our family was Christmas Vacation.
Oh, my wife and I's favorite. National Lampoons?
Yeah.
Oh, I could watch it over and over and over. It's the best.
Absolutely. But I just think there's something about sitting down together and watching one of those movies and doing it every year with the expectation, hey, we got to do this.
Yeah.
That I really appreciate.
Yeah.
So
that's great. That's nice. Well, that's good. And then we're coming up on the Christmas, and excited about that, which obviously most people like. And I almost wish. It seems like December goes so fast. Whereas if December could be 60 days. I think would be on the money. I don't think that would ever happen, but in my mind, you get prepared. It's exciting, and normally December is pretty busy at work. It's for me, it's a lot of travel. It's going and visiting customers and lining up different things, and before you know it, it's just oh my goodness, Christmas week is up here now, and so it comes and goes. But you got to enjoy every minute. Random, totally not related to this, man. I learned a new word this morning. Aphantasia.
Aphantasia.
Have you heard of that?
It sounds familiar, but I'm probably just trying to assign it to something.
Okay, this is going to be interesting. So
hallucinogenic?
What's that?
Hallucinogenic?
Maybe in the same realm. But if you were to close your eyes and try and visualize an apple,
okay,
what do you see?
An apple, I guess.
Okay, so is it like HD 3D, or is it an outline, or if you were to close your eyes and think of an apple, what do you see? The apple?
Yeah, I see an apple.
Is it very definitive?
It's actually more artsy than it is actual. It's almost like I'm looking at a picture of an apple,
so you
or a
see
painting
an
of an
apple,
apple.
though.
Yeah.
Okay, see, I don't.
So what do you see?
Nothing. I see I feel an apple being there, but I don't see apple.
Okay.
So apparently there's a small percent of people who have this aphantasia, whereas most people see an apple, and sometimes it's high HD, super bright, vibrant. You see it, you're literally, it's almost like you're looking at it. See, I don't see that, and so supposedly it's a term used to define where it kind of came across because I have terrible recall. I don't I can't see something and then re-see it.
Okay.
So a lot of people have photographic memory and they have high recall. So the opposite is hyperphantasia.
Okay.
Anyway, so that kind of goes into where I have had a tough time with test taking, and anyway, it was kind of a little rabbit hole I went through. And so in scenting, I feel more things than I visualize things.
Interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, so if anyone out there, hopefully he's not driving, but don't
Yeah.
close your eyes and visualize an apple. You might visualize a car crash. But anyway, it's kind of interesting. I learned something new about that, and so I might dive deeper into like trying to understand. And I haven't asked my kids yet because I'm curious where they stand on that one. But nonetheless, moving on to drilling fluids, CO2 in oil-based mud. Interesting topic, Matt. What made you think of that? Is that something we're experiencing?
Yeah, I've gotten a couple of calls lately, and they're about different facets of CO2 and oil-based mud. And I thought, okay, well, let's see if we can like clarify it. And because it got me thinking more and doing my homework. And normally when I start kind of doing my homework, then I'm like, oh, hey, maybe there's something we could talk about. But
Yes.
a couple of the things that had come up were like, hey, we're seeing a lot of CO2, like the gas detector's picking up a lot of it. And it's like, okay, could it be affecting anything downhole? And it's like, well, we have to think about this because most of that is coming in the annulus, right? Like you're not, it's in your fluid, but it's only on one side of the fluid.
Yeah.
And so in light of that, is it possible that it could stay in the system, for example, and we pump it back downhole with our drilling fluid and possibly create more problems or something like that? And I guess the way I was hoping, we could briefly discuss it is just thinking about, okay, we know in water-based mud, we get CO2 and it interacts with stuff, right? Carbonates, bicarbonates, those ionic species, right? That stuff flocculates the mud. But in oil-based mud, for it to do anything, it's probably you got to have a lot of it and it's got to stick around.
Okay. Interesting.
But can it stick around?
Well, I was just going to ask you do you have any, I guess, how long does this gas stick around? I mean, I'm sure there's different factors, but I mean, does it?
Well, I don't think so, or not to a very large degree. And I guess kind of thinking very broadly about where we would be concerned. Okay, so my CO2, let's say one, we know that gas breakout this is why it's pretty scary at surface, right? Any gas that's, going to solubilize in a base oil, CO2, H2S, natural gas, it comes in and it's under pressure, and as it circulates towards the surface, you lose hydrostatic pressure. There's less of it, and so those gas bubbles expand and volumetrically take up more space relative to when they were in situ downhole, which not only implies like, yes, I've got a lighter fluid column as it's coming up the backside, but it's already starting to separate out as you lose pressure, right? So when I get to ambient, this stuff wants to leave. The problem is where it's coming out is really close to the rig floor and really close to places where if you had a flammable gas, it could ignite.
Right.
H2S where it could affect, health and safety. So, and CO2, I guess part of it is you should see a lot of it immediately around the, well area, but how long does it take to move our fluid from the shakers, which you're passing it through, it's basically dripping, right? So you got extra surface area for the gas to come out. Yep. Then you're agitating it, and it's got to go all the way from effectively your sand traps all the way to the suction pit, which could take a little while.
Yeah.
Given our mud volumes and circulating rates and that sort of thing. And so I think the first thing is, I would say it's pretty doubtful you're holding on to that much.
Sure.
The other thing is, can it affect anything once it gets there? Well, we'll talk about why I don't think so. We'll also talk about some treatment things to think about anyways.
Okay.
I think the main thing, CO2, when we're talking about oil-based mud, we know, okay, it's not really interacting with, other materials in the fluid that could ultimately cause, flocculation or some poor properties. But, could it be corrosive? The important thing to keep in mind is oil-based mud is non-conductive, as most people hopefully understand. So you've got, when we want a corrosive path, we don't want one, but this is how it happens.
Right.
You have a metal, you have an electrolyte, so this would be like water with ions. A cathode, a cathodic reactant, so like oxygen, hydrogen, carbonic acid, which would come from your CO2. Mm-hmm. And you need that conductive path. So a lot of times the illustration is like a battery circuit, right? But with our base oil, so this is the continuous phase, it's nonpolar. The CO2 is mostly dissolved in the oil phase, so it's not really available. There's no available water necessarily to create this carbonic acid. And so you don't have that circuit. This is why in corrosive environments, oil-based mud can be a very good thing. Everything's oil wet. You don't have that conductive path. So then you have to say, okay, well, could something happen?
Excuse me.
Bless you, sir.
Yeah.
So what happens if, let's say, my emulsion starts to break down a little bit? So now I'm partially water wetting a surface. Well, there's an argument to be made there. The other part of it is, well, the CO2, if it interacts with the brine phase, could become quite acidic. But then I still need my emulsion to break down, which maybe in that acidic environment does ultimately create that possibility.
Yeah.
The bigger question there is, what does your mud look like when your emulsion is breaking down? It's probably not good, right? This probably won't blindside you from the perspective of, gee, what happened to all of this equipment? The mud checks look fine.
Right.
It's probably, we're talking about like a lot of water in the filtrate, fluid getting really thick, clabbered up, those kinds of things. You're having issues holding bayrite, and that sort of things are just gunking up.
Yeah.
You probably know you have a problem,
Right.
when an emulsion's breaking down. But that emulsion breaking down is the only way to provide water for this effect to take place, right?
Yes, got it. So by that, hopefully you've not got to that point. And so really, and if what I'm hearing is there's a very low likelihood that if you had CO2 contamination, it'll affect the rig components.
Yeah.
Because you would start seeing issues with the mud way before it has time to mess with the rig. So hopefully you've got in front of it, which, kind of breaks into the next topic is how do you kind of treat or how do you plan for this type of stuff?
Well, what stinks is planning is sort of a trap there unless hey, we encounter a lot of CO2 in this area, we have offsets.
Yeah.
What is frustrating is the first thing you want to do is keep your excess lime up, right? So keep that brine phase alkaline buffered. The trick with lime is it solubilizes pretty slowly, especially in a brine. And so if this takes you by surprise, let's say you're just running 1 or 2 pounds because easy going, right? And then you're like, oh, shoot, I'm having trouble keeping up. Like, it's depleting. You don't have a huge window, and let's say you're like, hey, I need to get up to like 4 or something to give me a little bit of a buffer. That's a lot of lime to blend into oil-based mud and get it to solubilize very quickly. It's going to take a few circulations, and it's not going to be fun.
Yeah.
If then I think you find yourself in the realm of like, hey, we're gonna go pretty beefy with this. Like we'll run our excess at 8 pounds per barrel. The important reason you would want it high is to give you that excess for taking a huge slug of it. So
right.
Excess is the most important part that matters, right?
Yeah.
It's if I have more than 0, I have excess, which means I have buffering, which is what I want to avoid affecting my water phase.
Right.
So the other thing is, if this really gets to you, there are CO2 scavengers you can use. They are expensive. But if you can't keep up, the nice thing about them, many of them are liquids. They mix very quickly. Mm-hmm. They go quickly to the internal phase. They can buy you some space. But in the broader, scheme of events, lime is relatively inexpensive if you can stay on top of it.
Yeah.
And so this is one where hopefully you react quickly, you can be prepared, but shy of those things which would ultimately compromise those fluid properties, where we start seeing those problems, then we start saying, okay, maybe this, I have some acid gas affecting my metallurgy and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's a pretty big domino effect.
Have you seen where, I haven't been on a rig or been involved with it, but because it's not very common, but let's say you get a bunch of CO2 and it starts breaking down your mud. Is it a matter of just smashing it with a bunch of lime to get it back, or do you then have to retreat with more wet, more diesel? Like, do you have to sort of rebuild, or is it just kind of adding the product and getting it back to normal?
I think from a time perspective, you're going to do both. If you had enough time to get it treated back up and that sort of thing, you may be able to make it work, but you'd probably want to isolate some of it and work on it. I just think it's inevitable you'd have to add some product, give it a little bit of dilution with some fresh mud or something, and kind of ease your burden so you can keep drilling.
Yeah.
And then, I would just add the other part of this is if you're taking gas and you're drilling conventionally, you probably want to wait up.
Right, yeah.
And if you're going to keep taking gas, you probably want to have some gas handling equipment because, hopefully it's CO2. It's probably the more benign of your choices if you had to pick. Being able to handle large volumes of gas influx, with choke, MPD or underbalance drilling even, and diverting this stuff, gas buster, flare, being ready for those things,
sure,
is probably wise. So,
cool. Okay, good.
Yeah, I mean, I think if it's that bad, we probably need to make some other arrangements, either wait up or get some equipment.
Right. And the good thing is, again, like this lime, relatively speaking, is a very inexpensive product compared to a lot of everything else you're adding. And so it's easy to keep up with. You're testing for excess lime every mud check. So you can stay ahead of it pretty well. But, again, depending on where you're drilling or if maybe you're doing something exploratory, all of a sudden you hit something big, then you would certainly want to adjust and do what you need to do to, again, treat it. But it's not... Fortunately, it's not like the point of no return if you get a little CO2, but it's something worth mentioning and understanding because it's, again, lime is a sort of one of the core products of oil-based mud, and you might think, I don't even know why I'm adding this. It's just kind of, I don't know what it's doing, and then you kind of get away from it, and next thing you know, you start getting thick and clobbery. It's a cheap insurance.
Yeah, well, and look, one of the new things that we're starting to see is things like carbon capture and storage, right? Where maybe we're injecting CO2 into or enhanced oil recovery. So, I've been out in West Texas, and any of these sort of unitized areas you drill into, and they maybe trying to use CO2 to sweep oil into producing wells, and you take a CO2 kick because they've pressurized a depleted zone to push that oil, and you're going to fight it, and then you try and wait up, and then you go on losses, and so it can complicate the situation, and it can be introduced into environments where you didn't wrestle with it in the past.
Sure. The last thing I want to talk about is not necessarily to do with CO2, but lime. It was like field chat, I guess, if you will, about when you're first starting to add it, people are like, oh, it's good to help with the emulsion. Can you kind of explain that portion of it, not necessarily to do with the CO2, but how like the lime helps with the emulsion? Because I think there's sometimes some different schools of thought there. And again, the old field hand is always just like, add lime to make sure the emulsion stays tight,
Yeah, so there are a lot of emulsifier packages that are what you would call free fatty acids. And what happens when you add lime is you're providing a source of calcium. So I think in the past I've used examples of, like, let's say oleic acid, or stearic acid is better, right? So aluminum stearate we know is a defoamer, right? It's only soluble in oil, right? But that's the structure of aluminum and this stearic acid thing hanging off the end of it. Well, calcium stearate is actually a water and oil emulsifier. So you have this fatty acid, you provide the calcium, the shape actually changes of the surfactant, where it wants to put the water in the internal phase, create that invert emulsion. So a lot of the older hands, many of those products were exclusively free fatty acids. You had to react them at the rig by adding lime. What we have now is there are a lot of other products available that are reacted already. And so when you add them, they don't need lime.
Okay.
So a lot of times it's a blend, though. So it may be that, it says it doesn't need lime to work. You may get a little bit more bang for your buck by having some lime. So it's very common, you mix 500 barrels of mud. You do a fresh mix, and you had 2 pounds per barrel of lime, and your excess lime is half that or whatever, right? And you're like, where'd it go? Well, that stuff... it's excess lime. The lime you had, some of it got consumed by taking that calcium, creating that emulsifier. So it can even just help the efficiency of some of those packages that don't necessarily need it Plus, as we've discussed, it provides some other important properties for the alkalinity of the internal phase.
Perfect. No, that helps so kind of summarize that piece of it, because I'm sure there's some folks out there curious, as I was. But anyway, I don't have any other questions on that, Matt. I mean, obviously, we didn't even touch on the other type of gas that could affect things. Maybe that's another episode here coming down the pipeline.
Yeah.
But, CO2 and oil-based mud, again, nothing super dangerous there. Again, you don't want it to get away from you, but something easily manageable and, but worth understanding. So anything else, Matt, you can think of?
I think that's all I got.
All right. Well, for the folks out there, again, it's the holiday season. Hopefully everyone's having a festive season. And, if you're out there, obviously on the road a lot, be safe, be careful. You just never know who's out there gallivanting on the highways and streets after maybe some wobbly pops. But nonetheless, folks, appreciate all the support, listening through the holidays. If you have any ideas for a show, or if if you're on the rig and something comes up and you're not quite sure, hit us up. The best episodes come from those who reach out and ask questions. And make sure you check out the YouTube page. We've got LinkedIn. Again, I've said this before many times, but we just have just a ton of great resources out there to learn from. So with that being said, everyone, take care for now. Until next time.
Take care.
Thanks for listening. Please tune in next week for another exciting episode of the Flowline. And remember, may your returns always be full and your trips always smooth. Views expressed in this program belong to participants and not their employees. The program is for informational purposes only and cannot take the place of seeking professional advice. Copyright AES Drilling Fluids.